locust has eaten. These, some people waver over whether these were 4 different types of locusts, or sometimes they'll even say worm, like a canker worm, or if these were 4 different types of locusts or 4 different waves of the same kind of locust. Because when I'm going to give you guys some locusts facts here, little Discovery Channel lesson here in a minute. When you look at pictures or what swarms of locusts, when people have written out, like, you know, botanists and insect scientists have looked at what they've done to plants and what they've done to land, they will start chewing on the green parts first and the leaves and the actual crops themselves, and then they'll move down to like the tender like shoots and the small branches, the still green shoots and the little things. And guys, they'll get to a point where they're eating so much that they'll strip all the bark bare, and they'll even eat away the branches until everything is white. And we're going to see here, he's going to say in a little while, in verse 7, its branches are made white. Like, this is how locusts worked. They ravage the entire area. Like, it's gone, man. So awake. What's then the call to the people? He then looks at them and he's like, have you ever seen anything like this? What all these locusts have done? Awake, you drunkards. Verse 5. Weep and wail, all you drinkers of wine, because of the new wine, for it has been cut off from your mouth. I believe another reason why he was doing this is at the time there were a lot of people drinking. A lot of people were getting drunk, and we all know that when you're drunk, you're not sober. You're in a stupor, you're foggy, you're not thinking straight. And so how were these drunk people supposed to be worshiping God for anything? They must have been having some good crops before this, because when new wine's flowing, more people are drinking, more people are partying, and it's woo, you know? And he goes right at them. Right, oh, wake up, you drunks, you people who love strong wine, for it has been cut off from your mouth. He's saying, because you haven't sobered up, you're going to sober up now, because there's no way to even make beer or wine. Forget it. Your liquor is cut off from you. The bartender just shut the, you know, you're cut off, man. Taking your keys. Yeah, sir, you do not need to be riding that chariot home tonight. You're way too off. Hey. Oh, man. Verse 6, for a nation has come up against my land, strong and without number. Now, when he says nation, something we're going to learn about prophecy, guys, is this entire time, he's using the locust army like an invading army. God is using it like that to clue them into, yeah, you think this is bad? You're going to get invaded by armies to come. Israel, if you don't watch out. Judah, if you don't watch out. You're going to get invaded by true armies, not just these armies of insects. Now, the insects, the locusts, in Proverbs 30:27, they're kind of referred to as an army. They kind of move like an army. And you'll see that in all these places. We'll see that in chapter 2 a whole bunch. So, he says, for a nation, the swarm has come up against my land, strong and without number. Just so you know, locusts move in the billions and not the millions. They move in the billions and not the millions. Swarms. That is huge, okay? Let's see. They're strong without number. His teeth are like the teeth of a lion, and he has fangs of a fierce lion. He has laid waste my vine and has ruined my fig tree. Guys, the vine and the fig tree specifically, Israel, as a picture of Israel in Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew. You'll see it in, I believe, the Gospel of John too. Nathaniel, a very devout Jew, sat underneath a fig tree. Jesus saw him there. And so the fig tree, you know, Jesus actually curses the fig tree at one point, and you could tell it's him kind of cursing Israel because they weren't accepting him. And he has stripped it bare and thrown it away, and its branches are made white. Remember when I talked about that? They're gnawing it down to white. Lament like a virgin girded with sackcloth for the husband of her youth. The grain offering, this is the worship tools. All the guitars and harps are getting broken here. The grain offering and the drink offering have been cut off from the house of the Lord. The priests mourn who minister to the Lord. The field is wasted, the land mourns, the grain is ruined, the new wine is dried up, and the oil fails. Guys, you can't have temple worship without oil, or tabernacle worship without oil, without a drink offering of wine, of good wine. You can't have the showbread or the grain offerings without grain, okay? This was stopping. It came to a halt. Their worship was being brought to a halt. Be ashamed, you farmers. Wail, you vine dressers, for the wheat and the barley, because the harvest of the field has perished. The vine has dried up, and the fig tree is withered. The pomegranate tree and the palm tree also, and even the apple tree, and all the trees of the field are withered. Surely, listen, he's making a step over to worship now. Surely joy has withered away from the sons of man. That's rough, huh? And you're asking yourself, why does God let this happen? The question we should be asking is, why do we let things get this bad before we cry out to God?
That's right.
Because we're going to see right here, right after this, verse 13, there's a shift. He's just described everything that happens, and he's saying, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it, people? I've spanked you, now what are you going to do? You going to turn and run, or are you going to buckle down with your God? He says, gird yourselves and lament, you priests. See, he's going at the leaders. We've heard priests, ministers, elders. He's going at the leaders because if it starts in the leaders of the church, it can trickle down into the families and the congregations and the people coming to worship. These people should know better. I mean, again, I'll quote Jacob Prasch. You know, we have jerks in the White House and jerks in government all over the world because we have jerks in the pulpit. And by jerks, I mean people who aren't teaching the word, people who don't care to please and honor God and worship God, who are all intellectual and no heart. I mean, there's just, who are really shallow and have all kinds of new awesome doctrines, emergent and seeker-sensitive and like cool and hip, but they don't mean anything. And we have problems now in American families, marriages, children, with suicide, rape, divorce, everything. We have problems with all that because the leaders have stopped following God. I think I've spoken of before in our Romans class last year. If you guys remember that, beginning of Romans last spring, we talked about the statistics of how bad American clergymen have gotten. And some denominations, there are like 75% of clergymen that don't believe the Bible is the inerrant word of God anymore. I don't even need to say anything more about that. That's horrible, okay? We've lost our way. And so this is speaking to us, all right, guys? But what I see here is something interesting because God is so good that he doesn't even leave us in a time when he is frustrated. I mean, obviously there's an emotional system in God that is being spurred on and sparked up here. His anger is kindled against us, you know, and there's something going on, but he doesn't just leave us there. He says, gird up yourselves, lament, you priests, wail, you who minister before the altar, come lie all night in sackcloth. Wearing sackcloth was a visible thing. You throw ashes on your head and wear sackcloth. It was visible of mourning. Daniel did this. I mean, there were other places in the Bible you see this. I believe Mordecai in the book of Esther did that. In the movie One Night with the King, you actually see him doing it. It's really cool. Jonathan Rhys-Davies, the actor, really, really interesting scene. He's just wailing and throwing dust up in the air on his head. And I mean, they were going to be exterminated. You know, might want to get serious about your mourning at this point. For the grain offering, the drink offering are withheld from the house of your God. Not only are you're going to probably start starving and be in a famine because of this plague of locusts, swarm of locusts, you're going to start not being able to go to the temple and worship. Consecrate, this is an answer right here. Consecrate a fast. What is the answer to this? A fast. Call a sacred assembly, gather together, gather the elders and all the inhabitants of the land into the house of the Lord your God. And what does it say? And cry out to the Lord. Guys, I saw a lot of crying out to the Lord during 9/11. I don't know, were you guys part of any vigils? Or, you know, I was on a college campus at the time, and I saw people that were living lives of sheer hell and for sin and pleasure that got serious for a minute and went and bowed their heads and prayed. I mean, people praying and citing hymns and poems who in all of the rest of their life have nothing to do with God. You know, we're all believers in the foxhole. There's no atheists in the foxhole. You ever heard that statement? No atheists when bullets are flying. Please God, please God, please God. I'm sorry God, I'm sorry God. Please God, please God. Don't let me die, don't let me die, don't let me die. I'll serve you, I swear I'll serve you when I get out of this. Just get me out of this, just get me out of this, I swear. Yeah. Alas for the day, verse 15, for the day of the Lord is at hand. Now, another thing about prophecy, you guys. Prophecy is 2 and 3-fold many times. And this is what I mean by this. 2 and 3-fold in the Old Testament. Prophecy would many times be the prophet would be speaking to the people at his time, directly to them. But that prophecy would then double. Some of them would double to the time of Jesus and triple until the time of the end. So this prophecy, I kind of believe, I would like to say, is talking about directly in front of him, what is going to be coming in the near future, and what is coming at the end of the age. Guys, we're gonna see in here where he quotes the famous Joel quote about the Spirit of God falling out of Acts chapter 2. We're going to see that there's a definite, like, okay, this might be for right now a little bit, maybe the near future, but it's definite fulfillment we saw in the book of Acts. Okay? So you guys understand what that says? That's not a catch-all. That's not saying, well, it could be for any time. It's like that you see specific areas in Scripture because, guys, it's so awesome. We stand hundreds and hundreds of years, 1,000-something years past these prophecies, and we can say, wow, that happened. Okay? That's why we're studying this book, is because Joel called it, you know, and Peter quoted it and observed it and watched it happen in Acts. And so Joel, you know, we give him a lot of credence because of what we saw happen in the book of Acts. But think about this. For the day of the Lord, you guys, is the Jewish idiom for the tribulation. You guys, do we all know what the tribulation is? The roughest 7 years on earth ever that will ever happen. Jacob's trouble is the other Jewish phrase or idiom used for this. So if you ever hear the term Jacob's trouble or the day of the Lord, or the great day, or the great and awesome day of the Lord, that's what it's talking about. So the day of the Lord is at hand. It shall come as destruction from the Almighty. Is not the food cut off before your eyes, joy and gladness from the house of our God? This was happening right then, guys, and it's going to happen at the end of the age. The seed shrivels under the claw.